Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome aboard. I appreciate your time. I see from the list of attendees we have some early morning risers as well in Americas. Good morning to you. um, Today, I'm going to go ahead and talk about our new Fanvil X300 series IP phones. You're going to understand one of the reasons why we've gone down this path. One of the things that we have realized is when I came on board, and by the way, my name is Tommy Lee. I'm the VP of Sales for North America here at Fanvil. And, one of the things we wanted to do is when I came on board, we introduced the XU series, which basically covered all of the different features, having color, PoE, GigE, try to make it less confusing to the marketplace. And I think it was pretty well accepted throughout the world. And what we realize is that even in the baseline X3U marketplace, which is the baseline of the XU, there are marketplaces that we wanted to address that really we wanted to break into looking at really cost-effective phones that broke out in the X3U marketplace to really provide the baseline features to really make sure that we provide a solution there without necessarily sacrificing performance. And what we found is a great idea or chipset that we actually put into these devices that really provide great enhancement in chips while also addressing all the different marketplaces we wanted to do. So I'm going to get into that really strong in this particular presentation. But before I do that, in terms of little housekeeping in this presentation, if you have any questions, please by all means put your questions in the question box as I go along. And what I'll do is at the end of the presentation, I will go ahead and address those questions one by one as we go through. In addition to that, I'm going to also have a soft copy of this presentation available on the handout. So if you go to the GoToWebinar handout client, you should be able to find handouts in your client so that you can download a soft copy so that you can have this for your reference moving forward. Now, with that said, I'll go ahead and move forward with that. And again, my appreciations for your time. As I'm speaking, many of the people are just now logging on board, and we'll just go ahead and move on with this presentation. What I plan to do today is really kind of go over a product overview and actually provide some highlights of the X300 series product. And what we're going to do a little bit differently this time is we've also compiled some video highlights. I'm certain that we're going to go ahead and provide those video highlights through a video or YouTube, or even perhaps even in our download support center on our website. There is a video section there that you might be able to go in and see these videos. They're going to include an out-of-box video and some of the feature highlights of some of these things. And they'll really do a good job at being able to present some of the highlighted features. And at the end, I'll close out with a Q&A session to go ahead and address any questions and answers that you might end up having. Okay, great. This is what we've actually done for the X300 IP phone series. You can really look at the X300 as divided into two separate categories. One category is the X303, noted at the bottom here, which is really the color version of the 303. And for those who really don't have a need for color but want to address more economical issues, then you can go ahead and look at the monochrome version, which is the X301. Both of them really, as I will share in the future, will share the same type of features, but what we've done is really broke out the resolution in many of the different phones so that if you don't necessarily need some of the function keys that you have on the side here and you want sort of a baseline dial tone phone, you can really settle for different levels of performance going with the 301. But if you do need some of these added features, then the 303 is what you're going to do. And then from these two, it breaks out into a lot of different features moving forward. What you'll also find is that the also support a lot of features with 6-way conference, Opus, and of course, it also supports all of the baseline high definition audio as well. And I talked about the new dual core chip that we've gone ahead and implement here. And you will notice that when you go ahead and test these devices, you can go ahead and they will meet your performance. But one thing I find that's really, really great is that we're also developing this series in a Wi-Fi phone. Because as you know, many people now work remotely, and you're not going to necessarily find a PoE switch or even an electrical outlet box in a convenient location. So what we did is actually find incorporated a dual band Wi-Fi in this series as well. And in terms of availability, these phones will be available perhaps the latter part of January. Considering the latter part of January happens to be the Spring Festival, all that, likely to be late January. I mean, we're already in production on many of these things, but some of these things will be coming out during that time frame. Now, before I go into do a deep dive on the X300, I always like to go ahead and provide sort of a backup in showing some of the phones that we do now. Now, these X300s isn't going to necessarily take over any of the XU series, but we're going to go ahead and complement these series with these phones as well. But just to look at some of the things that we talked about, we also provide other SIP-based phones. I talked about the XU when we came on, and this really based on providing a really over 4 SKUs, everything from what we call a baseline model going all the way up to the X6U here, which provides dual window, all color, and providing an architecture that many people are used to on their legacy phones. So when they transition into this phone, a lot of the button locations are located in the same thing. As well, the X210, which is a design that we came out with that's very famous, we actually incorporated both the expansion board as well as the main board all on one. And of course, obviously for many of the integrators out there, this adds to a lot of convenient features because this is all one base firmware. There's no cables, there's no nothing you need to download. This makes a fantastic control center or perhaps a great front desk phone for many of the different SIP applications. Besides that, we've also added the V series, but we'll talk about that some other time. But in addition, business phones, we also have hotel or hospitality phones. Everything from what we call soft display designs to allow integrators to be able to upload a soft copy of the hotel logo, in addition to the classic hard label phones as well as narrowband phones as well, so that you can go ahead and put these things wherever you want to in a not so like in the bathroom or lobby, what have you. Beyond phones, we're also introducing many of our solution spectrum. Now, these things have really gained a lot in popularity. We have our door access, intercom, and public address family here, of which we provide intercoms, both indoor and outdoor locations. For indoor, we have really indoor commercial locations located by our I-10, as well as outdoor locations. And we recently introduced the door security, which really complies to IP67 durability in terms of dust and water resistance for really apply to a lot of wide outdoor applications. Now, beyond outdoor, we also provide a lot of indoor solutions to be able to take advantage of many of the cameras that come along with these solutions as well. And we realize that looking at video, you don't necessarily have to have a full-fledged phone. So we actually put together these indoor stations or access units that provide great visibility into the video without necessarily providing a handset, but just giving you full-time Wi-Fi included voice access and video access to see who's at the front door. Is it the postal person? Is it, anybody at the front who's a friendly or a foe? You can go ahead and identify either one camera or many different cameras that comply with the H.264 video codec. You can see it in all of these screens, as well as provide a SIP call from one to the other. Beyond that, we also have PA2 and PA3 public broadcast systems, which really, is a very popular item that we provide that really converts all SIP calls into analog applications. One of the largest applications is public address systems, where you have an analog amplifier that could be addressed using a SIP call, whether you can contact this. It provides an auto answer and then relays the audio into a public address system. It also provides the ability to do multicast so that you can actually call in and provide solutions throughout that. And then going beyond just the intercoms, we also introduced a few months ago our brand new sub-brand called Linkvil. And Linkvil actually provides a wireless solution, of which this portable wireless phone is something that we provide that also complies with durability of IP67 throughout. But you can tie it all in, all the components I talk about, including the phones, with our Fanvil device management system that's cloud-based. And this is something, is a free service that we provide to our partners so that you can tie all of these pieces in one location so that you can do remote provisioning. If you don't use the PBX's provisioning service, you can easily use this to supplement those that are not on those provisioning services and vice versa. Okay. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and dig a little bit into the X300 series now that I've gone through the overview. And for those who are just signed on recently, I just wanted to let you know that if you want a soft copy of this presentation, please feel free to go to the handouts and you can download a soft copy of this presentation for your future reference. Now, when you take the X300, this is really broken out into two separate branches. We have the X303, which really provides a color-based version, which is the 303, P, G, and 303W. And one of the things that we find very compelling, that in addition to the XU that we talked about that packs everything into a 4 series, we did the same thing, but breaking out into the X3U into separate categories so that you can really do a surgical tool that provides you with the baseline features you need to address whatever cost and performance that you need to fit your specific application. So we have that, and we have the 301 series, which provides sort of the same breakout in terms of being able to support PoE. If you need GigE, you can go with the 303G, or if you need wireless, then you can go ahead and break out into the wireless applications as well. This is really great because the wireless applications support, you know, many of the different features, but also provides access to dual band wireless phones. Wireless access units. In addition to that, the same thing with the 303. If we provide the same breakout, the thing it kind of lacks is that it doesn't necessarily have the breakout keys on the side of the display, just like we do here on our 303 series moving forward. Now, in terms of having a product overview, as I mentioned, we typically like to break it out into some basic series, things that sort of break out into what makes it, you know, easier to understand. So we have 8 major product models that we break out for each one of these things, providing really, hopefully a simple choice. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our distribution channel or reach out to us directly. We have both support and sales emails that we'll provide later on so that you can address any questions that you want. This is the phone that I talked about in terms of the 303, broken out into 4 separate categories. And this is the matrix that really provides the breakout of what we do. In terms of having the P as well as the different things, we have the 303W, that's the G that supports GigE, while at the same time we have the standard 303, which really provides the baseline and as well requires a power adapter in order for it to run. And I believe we actually include the power adapter on this phone. And as well, with those things that don't support PoE, they're likely excluded based on the view of the out-of-the-box video. Now, we also have the same type of matrix for the 301 series. As you can tell, these support 2 SIP lines as well, and we actually have all of these lines. Now, in terms of when you want to compare what's the difference between the color one on the 303 versus the X3U, for example, in the 303, we support like a 2.4 inch display here, whereas the X3U, it provides a 2.8. So there's a slight difference in terms of video display, but many of these things kind of mirror each other. And when we go to the baseline 301, we talk about really a baseline display that has a very similar matrix as the 303 with this type of a breakout that we have for more cost-effective applications. Now, in terms of the highlights, these are the real things that we wanted to highlight about this entire series, is that we really found a chip that really goes in and breaks these things out. One of the things I find when I've attended many of these exhibits is many of the testers like to come up to the phone, do the rapid testing on the keyboard and seeing the response. I can guarantee you that you can come here, do all the tests that you want, and this phone is very, very responsive, even though it is our baseline. And obviously, even from our baseline, it supports a 6-party conference. Many people get confused about the 6-party conference. Like, for example, on this webinar, everybody knew to sort of converge on a specific time and date so that we all go ahead and relay a conference all at one time. But very often people go ahead, and I can talk to John Doe on a call and say, okay, let's bring in one more person or bring in another person. You can actually put that person on hold, bring in other extensions or perhaps the other person's mobile phone, and bring those type of calls into the phone itself so that it can support asynchronously all these different conferences all on one phone. And for some, that's a great design, whereas most of the standard phones support a maximum of 3, where 2 parties can bring on one person, but never twice the amount. And as well, we also provide different Wi-Fi capabilities as well. Of course, obviously, with the 303, and we talked about the 2.4-inch, one of the big advantages of the 2.4-inch, it does provide you with a color screen, but then beyond the color, it moves up a little bit in terms of size when you go to the XU series as well. So, these are the type of little differences, but quite frankly, one of the nice things about this series is that this series supports Wi-Fi integrated into one of the models with the 303W or the 301W, but in the XU, it requires a third-party dongle, which requires a USB Wi-Fi dongle to go ahead and gain that experience for Wi-Fi. Obviously, we have a dual-core chip, of which we can go ahead and make sure that even though we're addressing a baseline, that you can go ahead and not sacrifice performance even though you're going on, that allows you to meet your specific cost goals as well. And of course, having the support for both static as well as dynamic audio. It supports a dynamic audio chip in terms of Opus, being able to modify for low bandwidth as well as high bandwidth, as well as G722, which is a very popular codec that we use inside these phones to give you the high definition audio that many people expect. Okay, then obviously we talked about the 6-party conference. That means the organizer can bring in 5 different parties under one solution, so that you can go ahead and have the phone be the sort of the conferencing bridge rather than having this webinar application being the bridge for everybody on board. Then obviously we've gone ahead and did this enhancement, which we also provide Wi-Fi features. For those who basically want to go ahead and do that and provide Wi-Fi in either a remote home or perhaps in a remote office location, or just where a PoE switch or a socket isn't necessarily available, this is necessarily a cost-effective option just to go ahead and have that. And we have it both as well as a color as well as a black and white display. Okay. And of course, if you need Gig E to have the throughput onto a high power PC, we can go ahead and do that. But as well, we also integrated PoE where necessary, divided into 4 separate SKUs within each family. Okay. Some of the nice things that I talked about with the 303 series is being able to have some of the added buttons here so that you can really establish it and manage it via a line, or perhaps have some modest BLF functions or do speed dials, all the different types of function keys that Fanvil is used to providing into the marketplace. If you do need that, I highly suggest you go with the 303, but if your real needs are just going in and supporting dial tone type features, then you can go ahead and reduce your cost by going into the 301 series. Similar to the X3U series, we also have the X300 series supporting dual angles. Of course, very often, many people have different types of personal angles, and you can go ahead and provide not only wall mounting, but be able to provide desktop mounting into 2 separate groups. You'll also see that in terms of the back phone, where you can go ahead and see you can mount these brackets in different locations in the open box video. Now, speaking of open box video, one of the things I want to do is really introduce some video highlights into doing that. We put together, so I hope you have some patience in being able to work with me in providing some support onto this application. Now, in order for me to support this, somehow I have to break out into this session here. Hang on just a second. Here we go. Now, I hope that gives you a little bit of experience in being able to support that. But we also have what we call a series highlights, which kind of goes over some of the features that I've been through. So I'm just going to kind of glance this as sort of a final features before we go into Q&A moving forward. Great. I want to thank everybody as we move into the questions and answer section. So if you have any particular questions on this, I'd like to go ahead and really address any particular questions. One of the questions that rose is, can you please record this session? Yes, indeed. We record all of our sessions that we do here, and we will go ahead and publish this and hopefully send out whatever. You can go ahead and take a look at the X300. For those that are look out for the recording, you could also download a soft copy from our handouts as well. But we'll go ahead and provide this recording on the web, likely through YouTube and other different social media type of applications as well. One person asked, what about auto provisioning? The answer is absolutely. In fact, in terms of auto provisioning, we can go ahead and provide auto provisioning either through the PBX side, or perhaps if it's not available there yet, we can go ahead and bring on, and you can work with our Fanvil device management system through the cloud. You can go ahead and register and contact either your distributor or contact sales for FDMCS application, so that you can go ahead and reach out. You can access. Oops, sorry about that. You can go ahead and access. Anybody within sales, including myself, just by going out and reaching into sales@fanvil.com and have arranged work with them, and they will assign you with an activation link so that you can auto provision any of these phones. In fact, all of the SIP devices that Fanvil provides to the marketplace are all provisionable. You can go ahead and take these things and you can work with our device management systems, or very often you can work with the specific PBX manufacturers, of which we have many of them covered under separate models. Because these are brand new models, they're likely in the verge of moving into the PBXs, so over time they will appear. But as well, if that doesn't appear and you need that, you can really be ahead of the wave by getting the device management system to do that up front. So those are kind of your options that you have today. As I'm waiting for any more questions, and I saw some broadcast can use for what? Wall mount table, am I right? Yes, correct. In all of these phones that we provide, especially the X300, which is the focus product, we have a wall mount adapter that you can buy so that these phones can be wall mounted. Very often in these baseline phones, you'll find these being in a cafe or or even in offices, depending on what your specific needs are. What are the costs of the cloud provision service? The cost is zero, quite honestly. It's a service that we provide because we realize time is revenue in terms of many of our partners out there. And once you got one template set up, then you basically have a baseline to set up many of the other phones or all of our other series models moving forward. So it takes a little bit of a boot camp to really get into one, but once you have one template working, then you basically have the baseline formula to modify that template to work with all of our specific phones. Will Bluetooth be supported? In the case of Bluetooth, not necessarily for this baseline phone. You'll likely end up having Wi-Fi access, but in terms of Bluetooth, I'll need to double check that because I don't have that listed here off the top of my head. I might be able to check that, but I do know that Wi-Fi is accessible. Bluetooth, maybe. I would suggest highly going into the thing. In fact, if you stay on, what I'll do is I'll get away from this presentation and go into the Fanvil support site and see whether or not that will be done. So hang on and I'll go ahead and take a look at that so I could give you an answer. We can integrate the 300 with other brand PBXs. Yeah, in fact, the X300, just like all of our other SIP phones, are all SIP interfaceable. And very often, any SIP PBX is integrated into it. I think the real question that people are asking is, through time, will they appear? And the answer is absolutely. In fact, we work very closely with the very large PBX manufacturers that people can go ahead and bring in these things and get it on board. But very often, when we provide this introduction, it leads the integration pretty much either on time, but not necessarily catching every single PBX that are in the marketplace. So the answer is yes. So for the person with Bluetooth, let me go ahead and spend a little bit of time to find that out. And for those people who don't necessarily listen to this question, then I suggest that you can go ahead and really see what's available. Now I come here, and what I will do is I will go ahead and look at this function here and just see whether or not these phones will support Bluetooth. So I'll take, say, the baseline here just to see if it's done, and I'll take a look at the specifications, and I will see there's Wi-Fi, network access. I don't necessarily see it here in terms of this matrix. So off the top of my head, I would end up saying the answer may be no. Otherwise, that's it. And you can go into this specific product website that will really give you a good access into all of these different units to kind of show what type of features that are located right on our website. And while I'm here, you might as well just go to our support center. And when you go to our download center, for those who don't need to know, you can go ahead and actually find the firmware documents as well as related videos for all of our different solutions and Wi-Fi phones here. You can go to the SIP Wi-Fi and you can actually go down to the X300 series phones here and really just go ahead and pick on whatever specific model you're looking for. And here you will find the latest firmware access just right from our support and download center for your future reference. Now, with that stated, do you have a dedicated PBX? No, Fanvil tends to be very, how would you say, agnostic in terms of being able to be a PBX manufacturer. We're specifically an endpoint provider. We recognize that many PBX manufacturers are also our very close partners, and we don't necessarily want to go and compete with them. So what we do is we actually provide endpoints that are fully compatible with them, and being able to provide what we call a standardized interface for all of our partners that are deploying SIP into the marketplace. Now, with that said, I want to thank everybody for your time, and I will stay on for as long as possible if you have a personal question that you want to address, but I want to thank everybody for your valuable time. If I don't speak to you, have a happy holiday and enjoy and stay healthy out there, okay? Hope our paths cross one day and look forward to seeing you sometime soon. You take care and appreciate your time. Take care. Bye-bye.